glide bait fishing has become exceptionally popular within the last few years, and with that kind of becoming a more trending thing, guys that are getting into bass fishing, they've actually really gravitated to just jumping straight into fishing big swim baits or big glide baits. However, when you're just a beginner and you don't really know if you're actually going to like it or not, spending hundreds, 200, 300 plus dollars on just a single glide bait probably is not practical for you. So companies have noticed that, and they've started to make a lot more affordable glide baits out on the market. And today I have what I think are the 4 of the most popular new affordable glide baits on the market. And today we're going to be going head to head to see which one is the best bang for your buck and to see which one really fits your style of fishing. So without further ado, if you guys are ready, let's get right into today's video. Okay, to start, we are going to work from the lowest price one to the highest price one, just so if you guys want the lowest price option, you get it right away. However, sometimes going up in price will give you slightly bit different lures or accessories or certain different things. However, we're going to start right here with this guy here. This is the Bucca brand. This is a 6-inch trick shad. Obviously, most guys know about Mike Bucca. He's made some incredible lures. He's been around for decades upon decades making high quality lures. Recently though, he just got into making these ABS little cheaper option for those guys that are just now getting in to swim baits and or glide baits. He had the baby bull shads before, and now he started to make them in the glide baits. And this is the 6-inch trick shad. The trick shad by Mike Bucca is very popular in the swim bait community, and so Mike wanted to make a lure that is available and affordable for guys that just are getting into swim baits and they have just a cheaper option, but not to skip out on the action and the overall swim and presentation that is a normal Bucca trick shad. And that's where this bait came into play, which is nice because when you have these larger brands and they start making glide baits, there's not a whole lot of R&D that goes into it. There's not a lot of craftsmanship. They kind of just make something and then just spew it out. But when you have a reputable bait maker like Mike Bucca and he's like, hey, I'm going to be very meticulous about how things are made, that's when you get a product like this that actually comes out and it works and it does exactly what Mike wanted it to do. Because, well, he wants a good product to give out. He doesn't want to just make some random garbage for the whole world to see and have that doesn't work. So I really appreciate that Mike had a huge hand in creating the ABS, and the final product came out very, very well. So this thing weighs 1 ounce and 5/8, so just under 2 ounces, which is really, really a perfect size for most guys, because that 1 to 2 ounce lure, whether it's like a 6-inch mag draft or a 7-inch glide bait, like that seems to be the sweet spot for a lot of guys getting into swim baits, where they know that they can just catch fish on it, but they know they also have the ability to catch bigger fish just by going up to that slightly larger size. And so at 6 inches, just under 2 ounces, this is such an easy bait to fish all day, or if you don't even have a dedicated swim bait setup, you can still get away with fishing this bait. So the price of the 6-inch trick shad is $40 or $39.99, which is a really, really good price for the quality that you get with this bait. Now, the action of the bait, you can do a straight retrieve with it and it looks pretty good on just a nice, slow, steady, straight retrieve. You can just give it a straight chop and it looks good on just a nice straight chop. You can also give it some extra inputs, some pauses thrown in the mix, and it starts to look really, really good. It's got a nice kind of shorter but wider glide for a bait of this caliber and size, and it looks generally really, really good in all 3 ways you can swim it. So overall, I'm very, very impressed with the bait. The price is really, really good as well at $39.99. The sink rate on it is really shocking, because another glide bait that we'll look at later, this thing sinks very, very slow with the stock hardware on there, which personally I really like. It's a lot easier to adjust a bait from being a slow sink to a fast sink than the opposite way, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But overall, I think Mike Bucca put in a lot of thought and a lot of time with making the bait, and it came out really, really good. You've got swiveling hook hangers here. You've got oversized split rings here, so it's heavy duty. It does come with an extra spare tail, so just in case this one gets ripped off or you lose it, you can have a replacement tail that comes with it. Now, there was a small problem with maybe the original ones that came out, is that the split ring down here, or the solid ring down here, it would actually just break. And so a lot of people were actually dumping and losing maybe their PB or a fish of a lifetime. So I'm sure Mike has addressed that in the newer batches being made, but I saw a few guys had that problem where this solid ring down here would just break on a fish. So keep that in mind if you're getting these baits. Is be warned that I don't know personally if it's still a problem, but I know Mike has kind of heard about it. He's seen the complaints, and I'm pretty sure he has addressed it in some of the newer models that are being made. So that is kind of the one flaw that I've seen with the bait, is that this specific hardware here on the swiveling hook hanger part just breaks. And obviously that really sucks, especially if you hook a really big fish. And the bait, it gets bit. So eventually you will have those opportunities of hooking quite possibly the fish of a lifetime or a new personal best. So that is the first bait that we're looking at, which is the Mike Bucca 6-inch ABS Trick Shad. All right, going up in price is a brand that a lot of people know. This is a bait that I have made a video on before. I fished it in the past, and that is this guy right here. This is the Megabass. This is the Islide 187R. Now, this obviously is a Megabass glide bait. Everybody knows Megabass, everybody understands. However, what's nice is the old model of the Islide, a lot of guys actually didn't like because of the style of swim that it had, where it was very nose down, it was very kind of wishy-washy, and you couldn't really get it to glide very well. So Megabass kind of went back in the lab and they wanted to readjust the hinge back here. They made it a little bit further back than before, to where you can actually get this to have that same, you know, S-style nose down, but if you give it the right input, it'll actually stay level and glide really, really nice. So overall, I really enjoyed the Islide 187R. It kind of reminded me of like a Gancraft 178, and that it's just a much better bait. You can get it to glide super, super easy, and it comes in Megabass colors, and I like that it came in a floating model as well as an intermediate model, which is like a kind of like a super, super slow float model, to where you can kind of just adjust the sink rate super easy. It's got a good glide, readily available, and it's Megabass, so you get good quality out of the bait itself. The 187R comes in just above 7 inches, around that 2-ounce range, just like the Trick Shad. So again, another super easy glide bait to fish. I'm glad that Megabass went back and kind of redesigned it to have a wider glide, a little bit choppier of an action, and now I feel like this thing gets more bites than the old one did. I know some guys really did like the old Islide, but for me, this new one I really, really liked. Caught a lot of fish on it, and it worked really, really well for me. The retail on the Islide is $59.99. So it's a fairly big jump from that Trick Shad, about $20. So is it worth going from that Trick Shad up to the Islide 187R? Yes and no. They have different applications for me personally. Like this, the way that it has kind of that nose down action, it just gives the fish a slightly bit different look than that Trick Shad. I like the overall profile and size of this more. I like some of the colors that come in it, and of course it's a Megabass bait, so you can never really go wrong with Megabass. But is it worth the 20? Probably not to most guys when it comes down to picking a glide bait if they see one on a shelf or for sale on the market. So there it is, the Megabass Islide 187R, the newer version. Fantastic, fantastic glide bait, works great for $59.99. Now, the next one that we're looking at is a classic. It's a staple now. A lot of guys know about it. A lot of guys have fished it. Caught a lot of fish with it. The first time I ever fished it, I caught an 8-pounder using it. And so I kind of like this bait a lot, actually. I'm a little bit biased on this one, and that is this guy here. This is the KGB and Spro collab Shad. Now, this guy, when it came out, I was super stoked to know that these big brands like Spro are starting to collab with the smaller bait makers to make ABS versions of their already established baits, like the original KGB Shad. Now, the original KGB Shad made out of resin, just like with the Bucca 6-inch trick shad made out of resin. But those baits in the resin form, the availability is kind of tough to get them. The price is double, maybe sometimes triple the amount. So getting these bait makers to team up and make a cheaper version, a version that is readily available that you can pick up, is honestly a huge game changer. And there's no different with the Spro KGB Shad. Again, 7 inches, right around that 2 ounces as well. And you get basically the same exact action that you were getting out of the original resin KGB Shad. Now, some guys think it's a bit different. I've talked to Kevin. Kevin thinks he tried to nail it as perfect as he possibly could. And again, just like with the Bucca, where Bucca had a huge hand in making sure that the ABS version was good to go, Kevin did the same thing with this bait here, which is really, really nice to see that these big companies are letting the small bait makers make the fine adjustments, not just put out garbage and crap, because they have their name on it. They don't want to seem like, oh, you know, I made that ABS bait, but I didn't really put in a whole lot of time and guys aren't really liking it. So it reflects badly on the original bait maker. And so with the Spro version, you've got the ABS version, and it has a very, very nice swim to it. Where the Shad really comes into play is basically on a chop, a side to side, where it kind of stays in place and you can chop it. It's really one of the better choppy glides on the market, and you get the same exact action in the ABS version as well. Then you also have some added features like swiveling hook hangers here, which is nice. And so having the ABS version have a little added features, and then you have the much cheaper price. This one is the same as that Islide at $59.99. So more than half the price of the resin version, and you get a bait that is very similar in swim and action. So it's kind of a no-brainer to pick up one of these baits if you're trying to get into the realm of choppy glide baits. And obviously, if you like this version and you get a chance to pick up the actual resin one, the original one, most guys will just be like, you know, I like that ABS, I want to try that original. And it's kind of a gateway for guys into some of these companies to try the resin versions as they feel more comfortable about fishing glide baits, about what glide baits are working for them. And so with that, this is a perfect gateway for those guys to get into it. Chop's great. You can add some twitches, some pauses in there as well. The only downside to this bait for me, and I think a lot of guys will agree, is the sink rate on it is pretty fast. There is videos out there that I've seen of Japanese guys, crazily enough, where they will actually drill down here in the bottom, and they'll drill some of that weight out to kind of get it to be a super slow sink or even a floater, and they kind of just fill up the hole with like tissue paper and super glue, and they call it a good day. So that's kind of what I was saying about that Bucca, where the Bucca is that super slow sink out of the package, while this out of the package sinks a little bit on the faster side, which it kind of just depends on what you're fishing and how you're fishing. For me and my style, I really like a super slow sink. Some guys, if they're fishing maybe deeper water, if they're fishing it on live scope, well, you might actually want that little bit faster sink rate that you get out of the Shad. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for, but going into it, just know that it sinks a little bit faster, and the only way to lighten that up is drill into it. Where with the Bucca, you can add like board weights to get it to sink a little bit faster. So one way you have to bring out the power tools, the other one you just slap on a board weight. So that's why I kind of always advocate for making baits, be it a floater or a super slow sink, to allow guys to adjust the sink rate depending on the conditions, time of day, weather, where the fish are relating, and all those types of things that make bass fishing. So that's kind of my only gripe with this bait overall. Other than that, I've had no complaints with the bait, and I think they absolutely nailed it on the Spro and KGB Shad. Okay, last but not least, we have the Glideway 176 by Swimbait Republic. This has become a very popular glide bait among a lot of the guys in the community. This is a company out of Spain that their fishing can revolve around largemouth, but they also will catch pike and zander and perch. And so this bait is tough, it's well thought of, and a lot of guys are finding that this thing works really well for their local largemouth. And the Glideway 76 is the most expensive out of the new glide baits. This is $79.99. So quite a bit of jump, especially if you start from the Bucca, even from like the KGB and that Megabass is a bit of a jump. However, the features of the bait are really good. It comes with quite a few accessories as well. Like down here, you'll see that there's slots to put weight, and they actually provide weight for you. So out of the box, this thing is a floater. It comes with the hooks as well, nice sturdy stout hooks. Out of the box, as a floater, you can easily change that with the weight that is provided with the bait. So you can get it to be a slow sink or a super slow sink, and you can kind of just play around with weight. And it's nice that you don't have to go out and get your own bore weights to put in there. They already have perfect slots that fit there, and they fit snug, so they're not sticking up off the bottom, where sometimes if you put just a normal board weight, the hooks will just actually end up scratching and kind of picking off that board weight. With their weights, they fit nice and flush to the actual body of the bait, which the hook does not scrape off. And so it's really well thought out. The glide on it is nice, wide. You can get it on a nice slow retrieve. It looks good on a slow retrieve. You can just chop it. You can throw in some chops, some pauses. And overall, the swim looks fantastic at 176. It's again in that 7-inch range. This is about 2.5 ounces, so it's a little bit heavier than the other baits, but still light enough for most guys to throw it on like a medium heavy swim bait rod and like 16-pound fluorocarbon. It comes with a replacement tail, a bunch of different good, cool colors, and so overall, the Glideway 76 from Swimbait Republic is definitely one that a lot of guys have been using, catching a lot of fish on, utilizing it. And those guys in Spain, I just want to go fish over there because they have some really cool bodies of water. But overall, they seem to understand what guys are looking for in a small kind of 7-inch shad glide bait, and they nailed it with the Glideway 176. Okay, that is the 4 kind of shad glide baits that I picked out for today's video. Now, my overall thoughts, if you were to choose one, which one would you choose? Now, obviously I'm leaning towards the Bucca Trick Shad at $40. It's got a great sink rate. It's got a nice wide glide. It's 6 inches, and you can fish it super slow. You can fish it fast. You can chop it. It's got a nice wide glide. I like the hardware on it. The only downside to it is hearing those horror stories of guys breaking the hardware on a PB or a fish of a lifetime. So that's the only scary part about this. Again, I'm not 100% sure if the new models have fixed that problem. And if they have, then I would 100% go with the Trick Shad, no doubt about it. $40, you really can't beat that Trick Shad. Now, with that said, if the problems still exist, I would honestly go with the Spro Shad at $59.99. But again, you would have to drill out some weight if you wanted it to sink a little bit slower. But other than that, the glide is great on it. It chops well, it gets bit, and it's a great gateway into other KGB baits if you find confidence in that one. Obviously, if you have the extra cheddar and you want something that's a little bit different, that stands out, and you like those extra features of like the board weights and how you put them, the colors that come in the Swimbait Republic are amazing, then you can definitely jump up to the $79.99 Glideway 176. And then overall, I'm obviously a little biased towards the Islide. However, I do think the Islide is maybe the most difficult one to get the desired action out of, just because it does have kind of more of like a nose down if you don't hit it at the right inputs. But overall, I do like this bait because it comes in the floating and the intermediate, to where you can just add a board weight on the bottom to get it to be a super slow sink or like a super slow float. The Megabass colors is great. I like the profile, the size, all that good stuff at the same price as that KGB. It really comes down to what you guys are looking for in your fishing. You know, if you're fishing shallow grassy ponds, then I would definitely go with the floating baits, whether it's like the Glideway or the super slow sink trick shad or the Megabass. If you're fishing maybe deeper water, or you just need to get that bait down deeper to the fish, then absolutely that KGB is going to be the ticket for you. So it really just comes down to what you, the angler, are looking for and what kind of bodies of water you're fishing, how your fish are relating. And obviously I own all 4 of them. I've tried them all, and I know, like, okay, I can see this one working here, I can see this one working there, I can see both of these working here. And it just comes down to whichever one you feel more attached to when you're looking at these baits on a website, or if you have an attachment to, you know, the idea of Mike Bucca in his company, or KGB, or if you're a big JDM Megabass fan, boom. Or if you are like, whoa, baits coming out of Spain, like, that's really unique, I like the colors that come in, then you have a bait there. So realistically, I can't say one is better than the other. I think all of them can shine, all of them are in a good price range that a lot of guys can afford and try out and just put to the test for their own fishing. Other than that, if you guys have fished any of these baits, let me know with a comment down below which one you guys have fished, which one is your favorite. If you own more than just one of these, let me know. If there's some baits that I missed out from this, leave a comment down below and maybe we'll do a part 2 to these new affordable glide baits on the market. So other than that, thank you guys ever so much for watching. We will see you guys on the next episode. Johnny.